For the first time in the history of the DNR, they have to consider economic impacts. You know, we have things that take into consideration when there's a takings issue, when water levels breach the ordinary high water mark or inundate private property, we have a takings issue, but we've never had a consideration of when the DNR keeps these impounded lakes at an artificially low level. And we had submitted early in the process, the ALJ, administrative hearing process, an economic impact report. That was subsequently thrown out by the ALJ, and that was the basis of the appeal through the last 13 years of this effort. Now we're at the Supreme Court case, and they rule, yes, for the first time, they have to take into consideration economic impacts. What does that mean? We counted it as a victory. Apparently nobody else did, because we waited for almost a year for the DNR to act on that Supreme Court decision, to draft their own economic impact report, to reach out to the local unit of government, the Lake District, to amend and add on to our previous economic impact report. We had a meeting with DNR legal counsel, with the Attorney General and Department of Justice at DOJ to discuss the process. And DNR hadn't even started the process 8 months after the Supremes issued their decision. So we volunteered our tax dollars to fund the economic impact report, with a caveat that we didn't want the DNR to come back to us and shoot down our report simply because of who paid for it. In fact, we went to the UW Whitewater Economics Department. Dr. Russell Cashian and his staff visited all of the businesses on Lake Koshkonong, the restaurants, the bars, the marinas, as well as all of the campground owners, and conducted surveys and conducted hedonic analysis of what artificial low water does to property values and businesses on shoreline property. DNR has had that report for almost a year now, with no action on it whatsoever. There was some testimony earlier that, why should it only be the Lake District's economic report that should be considered by the DNR? There was no other submissions. That was, in fact, staff at DNR issued a press release saying that they were now taking, after over a year of the Supreme decision, that they were taking public comment. We've had multiple public comment periods at facilities around Lake Koshkonong, as well as in Jefferson, Fort Atkinson Courthouse, and here in Madison. We've become the poster child. For everybody today that testified against this bill, we're the poster child. We have followed all the rules. We have done all these projects on Koshkonong. We have done dredging. 200-yard by 200-yard experimental dredge project on Koshkonong. In fact, we were awarded a $100,000 grant from the department to use the spoils to fortify the shorelines. We have sponsored wetland shoreline protection grants, $10,000 grants per wetland owner, 11 wetland owners in total, $110,000. Unlike the state of Wisconsin, Koshkonong, state of Wisconsin, I was said earlier that about 80% of all the wetlands in Wisconsin are publicly owned. In Koshkonong, 80% of the wetlands are privately owned, and there historically been duck hunting clubs for the last 100+ years. They've been privately owned wetlands. They've been places of business. But yet we use public tax dollars to protect their wetland shorelines because we acknowledge the fact, and we worked with the DNR, that these are significant pieces of wetlands that contribute to the overall beauty and health of Lake Koshkonong. But having said that, we've also been the only government body to invest tax dollars on research right on Lake Koshkonong. We know what we're talking about. We know what we're doing. We've hired PhDs from UW Whitewater and Madison and elsewhere. We've justified all of the requests that we've made, from the dredging that we ended up partnering with the Army Corps and DNR to the shoreline protection grants. We even took over operations. We have one of about a dozen privately run fish hatcheries on Koshkonong. It's called the Bark River Fish Hatchery. For the last 20 years, it's been staffed by LTE DNR staff. And the reason why they're able to do that is the Lake District reimburses them for their costs at about $8,000 every year. We feel like that is an incredible community asset for Koshkonong, to be one of 12 privately run fish hatcheries on Koshkonong.